Okay, so we've all heard of the Declaration of Independence, right? But what does it actually say? I mean, really say? This thing is a huge deal. It's not just some old document. It's literally the breakup letter that kicked off the United States. And, getting what it's all about is super important, especially if you've got a test like the GED coming up.
All right, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. The Declaration of Independence is not the Constitution. Seriously, they are two totally different things. It's not the rule book for the country. The best way, and I mean the best way to think about it, is just like this. It's the official, world-shaking breakup letter that the American colonies sent to Great Britain.
And this wasn't just some scribbled "I'm done" note. This was a formal notice. Thomas Jefferson was the main writer, and he aimed it right at King George III. It's like they laid out a whole list of reasons, every single grievance, basically saying, look, this relationship is broken, it's beyond repair, and our only choice now is to go our own way and start our own country.
So what was the big fight really about? Well, it all boiled down to this one huge idea. See, the colonists believed that a government only gets its power because the people let it have that power. Consent of the governed. But they felt the king was just walking all over their rights, totally ignoring them. So the logic in the Declaration is super clear. Hey, you broke our deal, and because you broke the deal, we have the right to walk away and start our own thing.
So, you might be wondering, what was the big idea that fueled this whole revolutionary fire? Where did this confidence come from? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful concept: natural rights.
Now, this idea of natural rights, it wasn't just pulled out of thin air in America. Thomas Jefferson was a huge fan of Enlightenment thinkers, especially this one philosopher, John Locke. Locke's big thing was that every single one of us is born with certain rights. They're just part of being human. They don't come from a king or a government, which means no king or government can take them away. That's a game changer.
And this is where we get the classic American twist on it. This is probably the most famous line in the entire document. It's the promise of the whole new nation. What's super interesting is that Jefferson actually adapted this from Locke, who said life, liberty, and property. Jefferson swapped property for the pursuit of happiness. That little change? Whoa. It opened up this huge, amazing vision for what a person's life could actually be.
Okay, so how do you make a breakup this big official? You do it with some unforgettable lines that literally announce a new reality to the entire world. This line right here, this was the bombshell. You have to remember, this was a world run by kings, queens, and nobles. So the idea that all men are created equal, that was absolutely revolutionary. I mean, completely radical. And that single statement would go on to inspire movements for freedom and equality all over the world for hundreds of years.
So if you put all the pieces together, the Declaration is basically a step-by-step logical argument. It's almost like a lawyer making a case. It goes like this. Step 1. Everybody has basic rights. Step 2. Government's main job is to protect those rights. Step 3. The King of Great Britain, he's failed at his job. Step 4. Because he failed, we have the right to ditch that government. And finally, Step 5. Therefore, we're out of here. We are now independent. See? It's a perfect case for a revolution.
Okay, that's all fascinating history, but let's be real. Why does this still matter to you today? Let's jump forward from the 1700s and talk about how this stuff actually shows up when it counts. Like on your test day.
So, how are you going to see this on a test like the GED? Well, they're not just going to ask you, what year was it signed? They're going to test you on the big ideas inside the document. They want to see if you really, truly get the point.
All right, here is a major GED test tip. Pay attention to this. A super common type of question will give you a little chunk of text, a passage right from the Declaration, and your job is to basically be a detective. You read the clue, the passage, figure out what main idea it's talking about, and then match it to the correct term.
So when you're reading that passage, you're on the lookout for one of 3 key ideas. Is the passage talking about rights that you're just born with? Boom, that's natural rights. Is it talking about how the people are the source of the government's power? That's called popular sovereignty, which is just a fancy way of saying consent of the governed. Or is it talking about the people's right to ditch a government that's not working? Yep, that's the right to revolution.
If this is finally clicking for you, drop a fire emoji in the comments right now. Seriously, save this for test day, because if you get those 3 concepts down, you are going to be in great shape.
So I want to know what you think. When you really think about it, what was the absolute boldest thing about declaring independence? Was it the radical ideas themselves, or just the guts it took to do it? Drop your take in the comments.
Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just a document, it was a revolution on paper. And if this finally made the Declaration click for you, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more.